bit closer.
Yeah.
He always seems to do
Slightly bit different, yeah. Hey, we are live. Welcome, guys, for another one of our awesome videos. Yes, I am saying they are awesome.
You're so modest.
I'm so modest, yes. So today we're going to be covering all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. So if you do have any, make sure to put them in the comments right now and just join the fun in planning your trip to New Zealand. But why are we helping people plan their trip to New Zealand? Why us?
Well, this is Robin and I'm Laura, and we're the team behind backpackerguide.nz, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide, and it's 100% free for you guys to just have a browse, and it basically answers all your questions to do with traveling in New Zealand. But if you are the sort of person that actually prefers to watch videos rather than reading loads of text, then this is the perfect place to come. Our live Q&A session every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. So you guys can come onto the live chat and ask your questions about traveling in New Zealand. But if you are wondering what time that is around the world, that is in the US on a Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. EST or 12 p.m. PST. It is in the UK and France on a Saturday evening at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And in India, that is at a kind of annoying time of 1:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Sorry.
So throughout the week, we take your questions also through our various social media channels so that we can also answer those questions for you during this live Q&A session as well. So if you do have questions throughout the week, just add a comment to any of our YouTube videos and we'll add that to our pool of questions. You can also send us private messages on Facebook if you just search Backpacker Guide NZ, and you can search us on Instagram, backpackerguide.nz, and send us a private message there. Or you can give us a mention on Twitter at BPKGuide, but we cannot guarantee Robin will check that for you. So it's best to just go on YouTube and ask your questions there in the comments or add our live chat.
Yeah, for sure. YouTube is the best way to kind of ask us questions. That's clear. Good morning, Zubair. We're doing pretty well. Actually, it is really cold today in New Zealand. It is, we're in the heart of winter right now. So it is really, really freezing. And it looks like, it's pretty sure it's going to snow. It's that cold. So yeah, what about you? How are you doing? Is it warm where you're from, or, where are you from? Tell us time. Tell us where you guys are. We always like to know that. Now, while you guys are getting warmed up with some questions about traveling in New Zealand, we do have a bunch of questions that you sent us when, during the week, when you watch our videos and, a question pops up, you just type it in the comments. That's the best way to ask a question. As Laura mentioned, I always forget to check out. Make sure to put your questions in the YouTube comments. But we are going to be answering a question from Mr. James Scottney that asked on YouTube. All right. So James asked on YouTube, which New Zealand mobile phone network is the most reliable in terms of getting a good signal? All right, so that is a question that we actually get really often because, well, New Zealand has a very uneven coverage, right? So before I even start talking about all the different type of, different network that we have and their coverage and everything, the first thing I want to point out is that all of them we claim to cover 98 or 99% of the places where Kiwis live and play, right? So Kiwis as New Zealander, right? Not the animal. So Kiwis live and play mostly in cities, right? And there are only a handful of cities and a handful of places where people live. And you figure out that there's a lot of stretches of New Zealand which have not that many people there. And that's kind of the great way for many phone network to kind of be like, you know what, we cover, a lot of places, but it's a lot of places where there are people. So if you're planning to do some hikes or even staying in some more remote areas, on the West Coast, there is a lovely town called Karamea, which has which has some beautiful opera arches, which is definitely worth visiting. It's amazing, but there are 20 people living there, maybe 30. So, you kind of just grab that from the map, and that's very easy for all those phone networks to kind of claim that they still cover 98 or 99% of something, but it's 98 or 99% of places where people live and play. And just keeping in mind that half the population is already in Auckland, it's already pretty good to kind of cover half the territory right here when you actually just use this terminology. So I just wanted to put that out straight away just to kind of make it clear that you're not going to have coverage everywhere in New Zealand, even if there is a massive label saying 99%, coverage or anything like that. Just look at the small lines right here. So yeah. Just want to get started with this one because it's just something that caught me off guard when I arrived in New Zealand, and they still do it to this day, which is quite crazy. Now, for the phone network in New Zealand, there are 3 brands, right, Laura?
Yeah, so we have 2 Degrees, Vodafone, and Spark. They're the main 3 ones, but that doesn't mean they're the only sort of networks that you can join. There are other named networks as well. For instance, Skinny and Warehouse Mobile.
Just want to point out, so that's the 3 networks that you have, but that's not the brand of mobile phone you can of subscription you can be doing. The other brands that you're going to hear, they are using those 3 networks. So the actual physical network, that's those 3 ones.
Yeah, exactly. Just what he said. Continue.
Oh, okay. So there are 3 main network, right? So as Laura said, that's 2 Degrees. That's the light turquoise blue one. Vodafone, the bright red one, and Spark, which never seem to find a color for themselves. So there's sometimes purple, there's sometimes orange. They change colors all the time. So that's the 3 different networks. Now, there are also some different phone companies that you'll be able to subscribe. And to be fair, if you look at the article that we're going to link in the description below, where we compare all the phone networks in New Zealand, you will find that we talk about other brands, and we actually recommend some other brands. So there are Warehouse Mobile, there is a brand called Skinny as well. So there is plenty of other ones. We actually use, for our own phones, we're using Skinny, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So now for the actual phone network, from worst to best, it goes 2 Degrees, Vodafone, and Spark, right? 2 Degrees doesn't have an amazing coverage around the country. They very often have to use other companies' tower to try to relay some network. This is going to be the company where you're going to have the least even coverage around the country, and when you're going to get some places, you may get frustrated and just not have any coverage. They brand themselves actually being the cheapest, but they are actually not if you compare the prices. And we link to an article below where we actually compare all the different plans and all the different prices. But the way they get customers, especially travelers, is that they offer free SIM cards. But anything that comes free always comes a little bit with a catch, and that's what the 2 Degree phone network does. It gives you a free SIM card, but then after it's not that cheap and it's not that great. But you can pick up a free SIM card at the airport. It's usually with this Arrival magazine, and yeah, the SIM card is free, but you still have to pay for the calls and everything like that. The SIM card is never more than like $4. Very often it's $1. So I don't think it's worth going for a free nothing. Basically, a SIM card is worth nothing to not be on the best network. So I just want to point this one out. The second one is Vodafone. So Vodafone and Spark are the 2 kind of best ones. They both have a really decent coverage, and it will depend on selected areas. You will have coverage with Vodafone, but not with Spark. And some other areas, you're going to have coverage with Spark and without Vodafone's. And you can't really rely on their map to be very accurate to know where they cover. Their coverage map on their website is just appalling. So I've tried to prepare for this question. I've tried to look at those maps and everything, and it was very, very hard. It's just kind of like by experience. So very often you're going to actually have some locals that are going to tell you, oh yeah, are you with Vodafone? Yeah. So you can have coverage here. It just doesn't work. Like, okay, well, they just know it, and that's basically it. So that's the 2 like kind of main network. Now, from our experience between Vodafone and Spark, we find that the internet gets much faster with Spark. It's based on not much data at all. It's just really kind of how we find it out. We've been with both, and we use them both, and that's what we've figured out. And the Spark network actually is quite handy because there is a brand called Skinny that use the Spark network, and they sell kind of a prepaid plan much cheaper than what you usually get with the name brand. So I think with Skinny at the moment, you can get unlimited call and text and 1.5 gigabytes of data for like $26 a month, and it's prepay. So it's actually, I think it's $16 a month, and it's prepay. So that means that you buy a voucher, like $20, you put it on your phone. And then after you buy this little combo, which lasts 1 month, and it costs you only $16, and you have no contract and nothing. It's so handy. Now, the little caveat right here is that the SIM card doesn't work with every single phone because they use a slightly bit different network.
Yeah, so if you're bringing a phone from home, then you do need to check whether the phone actually works in New Zealand. And we do have a really handy article on backpackerguide.nz, which actually goes through a process of how you can actually check if your phone from home works in New Zealand. And if it does, it means it can usually work with any of the different SIM cards in New Zealand. But first of all, if your phone's not going to work in New Zealand, then you are going to have to buy a local phone. And like Robin said, that there's some phones that are, locked to certain networks, but other ones can be open. So yeah, once you arrive in New Zealand, it might just be best to buy yourself a phone, like a cheap phone just for your trip, along with the SIM cards, basically get the sort of package deal where you then know that the local New Zealand SIM card is going to work with the phone that you've just purchased. So yeah, that's a good way of doing things. And you'll definitely need to have, if you are wanting to make local calls in New Zealand, it is best to actually have a local phone number yourself. People don't usually want to speak to people that like do roaming charges and stuff from overseas. So yeah. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, so basically, so you do the test, if your phone is going to be working, but for some people that come to New Zealand for a little bit longer, not just for about a month, but if you come for more than a month, it may be worth actually getting yourself one of those cheap dumb phone, because they're really easy to set up, they're very easy to use, and they cost like 20 or 30 bucks.
Yeah.
And so if you want to consider that, because also what I like about those phones is that first, they have a much longer battery life than our smartphone and everything. This lasts for a day, right? You take one of those dumb phones, it lasts for a week.
Yeah.
So that's really handy. I really love that when I travel. And the other thing is that when we go for a hike or when we do anything else, and like anything a bit epic, and you kind of like, oh shit, I don't want to destroy my phone or anything like that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I can destroy my phone at $20. I can destroy one a month. It doesn't. Yeah. It's never going to amount to that.
Yeah. We've seen so many people that have brought their the latest Samsung Galaxy phone, and how expensive they are, and you do something a little bit more adventurous than what you're used to back home, like caving, or you just have your when I say caving, just doing like a little bit of like rummaging in some of the free caves around New Zealand. You have your phone in your pocket, it can easily fall out because they're so big anyway, and then that's pretty much it. It just cracks and breaks. So yeah, it's definitely with the amount of actual adventure activities that people do in New Zealand, because that's what a lot of people come to New Zealand for. It's probably better to have a phone that you don't care that much about.
Yeah. So those are our tips and the best networks in New Zealand as well. We have plenty of links for you guys in the description below with some of the best networks in New Zealand, how to choose your prepaid plan, and also how to test to see if your phone is going to be working in New Zealand. So everything is in the link in the description below. You just have to scroll down a little bit, click on the little arrow to open the description, and you'll find everything right on the top, right for you. If you find that useful, you can click like and you can subscribe to us. It always helps us a lot. We put a lot of work into those videos, and on top of that, you'll be notified next time we live, which is quite awesome. And thank you very much for watching this one. Now let's go back to the live chat. What is happening? Sir Awesome say, are there naked people in New Zealand? Yes, mostly in their shower or bedrooms. Zubair says he's from India, so he's awake at 1:30 a.m. Go to bed. Watch a rerun. Oh my God, why are you awake so late? Zubair says, in which cities snow falls most there in New Zealand? So there's not that many cities per se that will have snow, but it's mostly going to be like smaller towns which are going to be close to the ski fields.
Yeah, so bear in mind that most of New Zealand cities are actually on the coast, and usually snow doesn't fall near the coast. So like Robin says, it's more like the small towns that actually get snowfall. Ones that spring to mind are Queenstown. That's a really popular place to visit, and it is surrounded by ski fields. And snow doesn't actually fall there that often. It's usually
pretty rare, actually.
Yeah, usually in New Zealand, the snow actually more falls on the mountains, and then the lower levels, most towns are quite low lying. So that means that, the snow, it just doesn't get cold enough really and the conditions aren't always correct for snow falling in the town, so it's probably going to be like a very small chance that you actually do see snow in towns.
But you can go up to the mountains and actually get to see snow. If you come into New Zealand to see snow, by the way, guys, Ivani and Abidi and Zubair, why are you coming to New Zealand? Are you coming to see snow? Are you coming to see the wildlife? What attracts you to New Zealand? Anyway, let's get back to it. So you get to see plenty of snow up in the mountains for sure, but not necessarily in the towns. But Wanaka has snows around as well.
Wanaka, that's another town which is surrounded by ski fields, so that sometimes does get snow as well. And then if you think in the North Island, it's usually the small villages around the central North Island volcanoes. So there's a small village called Whakapapa. There's also a small village called National Park Village. They sometimes get some snow.
They get some snow?
Yeah, they probably get some snow as well. But
so
it's usually like one or 2 days out of the year if it does snow in those towns. But yeah, there's some names of some towns for you at least.
Yeah, actually, Hanmer Springs sometimes gets some snow because it's on the south end, and Hanmer Springs gets some snow, and they have a massive hot pools over there, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it's a good combination.
If
it's a chilly day, you can go and relax in the hot pools.
Nice. All right, so Eve Yanni says hi. Probably she's from Brazil or he's from Brazil. He says he has family in New Zealand. Awesome. Are you going to visit them soon?
Cool.
He says, I watch your channel to improve my English. Oh, that's cool. That's nice. Well, you're not learning from me because originally I'm from France and my English is pretty bad. But Laura is from the UK, so she can teach you a bit of English. ABD Al-Rahman says he's from Saudi Arabia, which is quite cool. At least you don't have the same problem than us. In Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure you're pretty warm right now because we're really frozen right now. Mehmet says, do we do Uber Eats with working holiday visa? You can order Uber Eats, yes. You can work and drive for Uber Eats if you want to. You will have to register with the IRD, which is the Inland Revenue Department, which will, then you have to pay your taxes for everything you earn, which is normal in your own bank accounts and everything like that. And you'll have to go through all the screening process from Uber because they can ask you like your IDs and all those kind of things. I don't know how that works if you don't have a local ID because obviously we never tried that. But I know that Uber nowadays does a lot of security checks, right? And they do a security check very often by asking you copies of your IDs. So if Uber New Zealand, where you will have to register to do Uber or Uber Eats in New Zealand, has asked you for your ID and you show an ID from back home where you are, let's say from the UK or from USA, Canada or Singapore or wherever you're from, that may not pass the screening test because, they'll be like, well, why do you want to do Uber Eats here if you don't even have a local ID? Also, I think it's the same thing for the driver license. So maybe that may be the case that you need to get yourself a New Zealand ID. And we have an article on the website for that. So if you type how to get a New Zealand ID on Google or even just on our website, backpackerguide.nz, and you'll be able to find how to do that. But that's how I would go about that. But if you are just asking if you can order Uber Eats, definitely you can order Uber Eats. Mm-hmm. Everybody is always happy to take your money first and ask questions later. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is the society we live in. That's for sure. So if you guys have any questions like Mehmet, make sure to put them in the description below. Sorry, not in the description.
In the live chat.
In the live chat, yeah. We're here to answer your questions. So make sure to just fire your questions. In the meantime, we're going to keep going through the questions that we got from you guys over the week, just to make sure that they get answered.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to read this one?
I just thought you were giving it to me with enthusiasm.
Yes.
Okay, so Minaksh, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Minaksh Saini on YouTube asked, can you please tell me about the public transport in Invercargill? I am planning to study over there.
Nice. Invercargill is a really cool town. So if you guys don't know, Invercargill is kind of at the bottom of the southern. It's often described as one of the southernmost city in the world, despite the fact that there is a southernmost city somewhere in Chile.
Yeah, but it's the southernmost city in New Zealand. At least.
Yeah. Let's
there
go with
we go.
that. All right. So Invercargill. Let's start with public transport. Is there any planes that go to Invercargill? Can I get myself from Auckland to Invercargill?
You certainly can. There is an airport in Invercargill, and it's actually one of the cheapest airports to go to locally within New Zealand. I see so many deals for going from Auckland or Queenstown to Invercargill. I think they just want to, push more of the people actually flying down there, because it's probably a bit less visited area, but it's still a really awesome place to go to. So yeah, you can take flights down there pretty easily and pretty cheaply. And also Invercargill is a really good place to actually take flights over to Stewart Island, which is New Zealand's third island, which is just on the just off the south coast of the South Island. It's amazing for its wildlife and stuff like that. So if you do fancy yourself a day trip or a couple of days going to Stewart Island, you can definitely do that from Invercargill as well. But let's get back to some public transport.
All right, public transport.
Going on a tangent about Stewart Island.
Public transport, there are some taxis in Invercargill, and they're about the same cost than anywhere else in New Zealand. And we're going to be linking in the description below with a whole article about taxi costs and taxi customs and everything like that in New Zealand. So it's just down there below. There is really nothing really specific for that. But the one thing which is really specific to Invercargill are bus networks. There is actually a public transport bus network in Invercargill, despite the fact that the town is really not that big. But the public transport is very simple and very cheap, so it's quite handy. Let's start with the price. The price is for anywhere you want to go, from any points, any lines, anything, it's $3. $3. That is it. So nice. That's pretty good. Like I do like that. I think it's it's very clear. I hate when they have like different sections of fare. Yeah, they have different zones and everything. They do that in Auckland. They do that in Wellington. They do that in Christchurch. You never know how much you need to pay, and it's just nonsense. Now there are 4 different lines of bus in Invercargill. Yes, you heard me right. There's only just 4, so that's pretty short. I have them right here for you. So there is WL, which is the Waikiwi link. There is WC, which is for Windsor Comet. There is the HS, which is Heidelberg Star. And there is KC, which is the Q connection. So that's the 4 different lines that you can have on around Invercargill. And that will cover the majority of all the places where you're going to want to go to. And the bus are quite frequent. Some of them are every like 15 minutes, some of them are every hour, but it really depends on what time of the week you're taking it, what time of the day you're taking it. But the network is actually quite comprehensive for such a cheap network in such a small town, which is quite good. So the buses are actually quite new. That it's not like really old buses and everything like that. So it's a pretty. Honestly, it's really decent for such a small. It's just one of the smallest cities in the country. It's really decent. Now, bus-wise, there is a bus card which is called the bus.
Not the bus.
The bus smart card. It's really cold this morning, guys. It's really cold. So there is the bus smart card. And that give you a discounted fare if you are actually using it. So it's one of those cards that you need to reload. So you basically get the card and you basically load, let's say, $50 on it. And every time you swipe it, it will deduct from the money that you have on the card. So it's kind of a prepay kind of system. Now, instead of paying $3 per bus ride, when you have the bus smart card, you only pay $2 per card, which is quite good. Yeah. Now, the one catch is that you can only reload this card at a selected amount of places where you can reload it. Let me just find this one out. So you can reload this one with the bus driver. You can ask them to top up. So that's very simple. The minimum is $10, or you can reload them at the council kind of building with all the network and the bus network over there, and it's 101 Esk Street. So that's where you can reload it. So it's not as convenient as, let's say, in Auckland, where you can go to so many of the convenience stores to be able to reload cards and everything. So there is a bit more.
I feel like the fact that you can do it with the bus driver, that's the most ideal scenario, right?
You can't do that in Auckland, actually.
No, you can't.
Yeah, so that's actually quite indeed. So and to pay for that at the bus, with the bus driver, you can only pay cash though. It's they don't have the card facilities or anything like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Aside from that, you can definitely use your own car around Invercargill. You can also use a bicycle. There are a few bike lanes in Invercargill, but it's not like, you can't really, you don't have a proper bike lane for yourself everywhere. So it's worth keeping in mind. Also, it does rain a lot in Invercargill, so it's not necessarily that fun to use that. Lastly, for public transport, another way to get to Invercargill is to use the national bus network, like Invercargill. Like Intercity.
Yeah, so New Zealand has one main national bus network called Intercity, and this is basically your way of getting from A to B on probably the most cheapest transport possible, which is taking the bus. So yeah, to get also other ways to get to Invercargill, or if you're based in Invercargill and perhaps you want to go to Queenstown or Tiana, or maybe one of the surrounding towns, the best way to get there would be with Intercity if you don't have your own transport.
Yeah. All right, so that's our take on the public transport in Invercargill. There's not that much to say about it because it's such a very simple public transport. 4 bus network, 4 bus lines, and very simple. $3 if $3 if you don't have the card, $2 if you have the card, and boom, you sorted.
Yeah.
So I find that really simple. So we do have a guide of Invercargill with all the accommodations and all the things to do around the city and everything like that. And we'll put that in the description below. It's a really awesome place to visit. It's a place you're going to really love to spend some time in if you're on a working holiday visa. So make sure you check this one out. And obviously, like, you can subscribe. I always forget to say that.
Yeah.
All right. Get back to the live chat. This side says, love you guys from India. Oh, love you from New Zealand. Ivani say, how many money can I have for 1 month in New Zealand? Well, it really depends on what you want to do. It depends on your activity list and everything. But, let's say you're traveling and, if you're going to be driving all around New Zealand, I'll count between $500 and $600 for gas. For food, I'll count $30 per person per day. So that'll be, if you're traveling just by yourself, that'll be $900. Because you're going to want to eat out, and sometimes you're not going to eat out. So, but I don't have that much context, so I can go with that. If you do want to do some activities, the activities they range from like $20 to $300. So I'll have about $1,500 worth of activities. So like that, I have some flexibilities around here. If you want to rent a car, it's really going to depend on the time of the year. So if you're about to travel in New Zealand in August, which is coming up soon, you probably would be paying about $50 a day.
Yeah.
So that would be $600. I'm pretty good at my math, right?
Yeah,
no, $50 a day. $50 a day times it's no, that's wrong. That's 10 days. That's 1,500. Sorry. I just bragged and then I made a mistake. $1,500 for car rental. For accommodation, you're probably going to want to stay in a few different places. So for accommodation, I'll do an extra, let's say $80 a day. So that would be $80 a day.
For a month.
Yeah, for a month, that's $2,400. Then you have like the little extras here and there.
Contingency money.
Yeah, because you're going to have to pay for the ferry, for example, back and forth and all those kind of things. So you may want to have an extra $1,000 for that. So yeah, that's basically it. So in short, I think I went up to about $10,000, but it really depends what you want to do. You may travel much cheaper. You may, there's just so many.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on your lifestyle as well.
We travel for much cheaper than that.
Yeah, when we've traveled New Zealand, we've always stayed in hostels. We've always done like the backpacker thing. So we try obviously make our way around New Zealand quite cheaply, but that's not the style of everyone. Other people might want to stay in hotels. They might want to eat out all the time. Do some expensive activities every single day, or maybe just are happy to do hikes, which are free. So there's a lot of things to consider, but we do have a video on YouTube, which is how expensive is New Zealand. This would probably be the best video to watch. It gives you an outline of the typical prices there are for everyday items and for activities, for transport. So definitely check that out. Just type in the search on YouTube, how expensive is New Zealand, and you'll see our faces, and just click on that video there.
Or click on another video if you don't want to see our faces.
If you want to see someone else talking about it, yeah.
ABD Al Ramhan. I'm destroying your name every time. I'm so sorry. What is the worst thing in New Zealand? Are there previous events such as earthquake, volcanoes, or flood in the past? And what is the level of security in New Zealand? Oh, that's a bit of a gloomy question. You're in a good mood right now. So yes, there have been some earthquake in New Zealand. It's very famously in Christchurch, which had about a bit more than 100 people casualty. But if you consider an earthquake in one of the second largest city in the country, that's very limited casualty. So one of the things in New Zealand is that it's super safe from even earthquake, even when there are crazy people doing crazy things. New Zealand is very, very, very safe. So the level of safety in New Zealand, it recently has been voted the second most peaceful country in the world. So here you go. It's always on the top of the safest countries in the country. For earthquake, they have really good prevention. They tell you all the time what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to say it because I always do a mistake when I say it. So what you do when there's an earthquake, you stop.
You don't drop and you don't roll.
Stop, you get under the table and you
survive.
Anyway, can't remember what I said last time. That was really funny. Anyway, so New Zealand is very safe. Volcano-wise, there are some volcanoes in New Zealand, and it may happen, but again, it happens every 1,000 years. So you will be really unlucky if that happened when you're there, and you should be fine.
So, and also like the volcanoes, there's not any major cities built up around the volcano, so you're like staying somewhere. If a volcano does erupt, there would be perhaps some ash in the sky and things, but there's a whole you stay indoors and don't try and breathe in all the volcano, and it's not
damn good volcano, bro.
I mean, unless you're doing the Tongariro crossing, and there's obviously some places you don't want to be. If
you have to be the least lucky person in the world.
It doesn't happen often whatsoever. So I mean, that's life. If you get caught by a volcano, then at least you know.
Yeah, and there is inherent risk in traveling in New Zealand, but there is very little theft. One time I literally forgot our bags with GoPros and drones and our money and phones and everything like that. And literally 3 or 4 hours later, I just walked back and it was still there. Yeah. So it's just to tell you, people are really nice and New Zealand is safe. In short, New Zealand is safe. Chill.
Yeah.
Chill. Zubair says, lake and mountains attract me the most in New Zealand, or I love everything about New Zealand. New Zealand has some pretty decent lakes and mountains.
It's all about the landscape. New Zealand does have an amazing landscape, so that's definitely a good reason to come and visit.
Charlie asks, where do you guys live in New Zealand? We don't like to give too much specific, but we live in central northern, and it's pretty awesome. We just don't like to just put our address everywhere, but it's not that hard to find us, to be quite honest. But we're somewhere in central northern end, and if you're coming on for a hike or anything like that, just send us a private message on Facebook or anything like that, and we'll organize something. Desai says, can we work in New Zealand if we have a visitor visa? Can visitor buy a car in New Zealand? You cannot work in New Zealand with a visitor visa. There have been a couple of very small exceptions in the past, and sometimes when it comes to fruit pickings, when it's a very specific time of the year under very specific conditions, but in short, no, you need a work visa to work in New Zealand. You can't look for work in New Zealand if you're on a visitor visa. You can only visit New Zealand and enjoy and being a tourist. Right? If you want to look for work or if you want to work, you need a work visa to come to New Zealand. It's as simple as that. There is no leeway around that. You cannot search for work. You cannot work in New Zealand if you're on a visitor visa. A visitor visa is for visiting purposes only, as a tourist enjoying the country. I just make that very clear. It's very clear.
It's very
there is no way around it, and there is no I'm trying to understand what I want out of it. It's not like that.
No, the answer is no.
But can visitor buy a car in New Zealand? You can definitely buy a car in New Zealand. There is no problem at all. So you can buy a car and then sell it at the end of your trip. Some people do that to try to save some money. The thing is, visitors visa usually have a pretty small leeway on how much time you can spend in New Zealand. And buying and selling a car can take quite a lot of time. So it's not necessarily the most fun things to do. If you have to buy your car, it takes you a good week to sort out, between paperwork, finding the right car, doing, sorting out payments, doing that, and then selling your car, between finding the buyers and everything. It will be about 2 weeks, I'd say. So I think that's quite a long time out of a trip. That maybe a couple of months at most.
Yeah, I mean, if you're visiting New Zealand for 3 months, then it might be worth considering buying a car. I know some visitor visas allow you to stay for 6 months. In that case, that would be worth buying a car. But if your visitor visa only allows you to stay for a couple of months or something, or 1 month, then it's definitely probably better to rent or just travel around by bus. Yeah.
Charlie says, nice. What is your favorite mountain to climb in New Zealand? I really like Welcome Rock. It's not really a mountain, but it's down near Lumsden, which is south of Queenstown. So it's in the lower part of the South Island, and you kind of go through some really awesome landscape, and you see the whole Southern Alps range and everything. It's really fantastic. It's a great place to hike. It's a mountain-ish. It's one of the mountains or hill. I don't know what it is, but it gives you a really amazing view, and it's still a decent climb from time to time.
And there's so many mountains in New Zealand. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick one, but maybe it's kind of cheating. But I was going to say Mount Ruapehu, but half of the mountain to climb is taking chairlifts up, and then you can start climbing from there. Mount Tongariro is always fun.
It's a popular one for
that's a very popular one.
Around Mount Taranaki, you get some really awesome views as well, which is quite awesome. And you can climb both in summer and in winter. But in winter, you better go with a guide. There's only one company that guides you down there. So it's not cheap, but it's quite fun to do as well.
Yeah.
So that's one of the mountain climbs. Which one is your favorite? Because we know that Charlie is from New Zealand. We know you're around there. Tell us which one is your favorite while we answer the question of someone else. Oh no, wait. Then you say, any specific license required in New Zealand to drive a car as a visitor? Oh, actually, that's a good question. So when you are coming to New Zealand with your own driving license from your country back home, if your driving license is not fully in English, you need to get yourself an international driving permit, or IDP. So you need to get that paperwork. Every country has different ways to get them. How did you get yours in the UK?
What, get my driving license?
Your IDP, your international driving license.
I never needed to get one since I'm from an English-speaking country.
Yeah, that's true. Well, in France, I got mine. Sorry.
Yeah.
You could get one if you want to.
Get one, yeah.
So in France, you kind of have to go to the prefecture. I don't know whether you like the prefectorate or like one of the council buildings. And then you have to retake all your pictures and do all your fingerprints and everything like that. And then they give it to you. But I know that in the US, you will need to go to the DMV, for example, to get it. So it really depends. So you use your driving license, and then you get an international driver permit. With that, you'll be able to drive for 3 months in New Zealand, in the country. If you're planning on driving for more than 3 months in New Zealand, if you have a working holiday visa or anything like that, you can get yourself a New Zealand driving license, which is also an awesome souvenir to get.
It is, yeah.
So you can do that. You can do that here. Now, how do you get a New Zealand driver license quickly?
Well, that's pretty easy. You just go to an AA office. There's one in Auckland, and possibly some post offices as well, but I'm not sure if you can do it there either. We do have an article on backpackerguide.nz which lists all the places you can go, but basically it's a simple form to fill out. You also need to provide your driving license from back home as well. They'll need to take a photo of you for your New Zealand driving license.
And they do the eye test as well. The lights on the side.
Yeah, so they do a bit of an eye test as well. So it's a pretty quick process, and then you just need a few days for them to process your application and make up the little card for you, and then you're pretty much ready to go.
Yeah. So it's kind of a simple process, but here you go. I hope that answered your question. Desire, just let us know if there's any follow-up. Mini Zaki says, my favorite to climb is Paritutu Rock because it's easy.
Yes, we like Paritutu Rock.
Yeah, it's quite fun. But there is a pain,
I know, it can be pretty steep.
It is easy, but it still feels like an adventure. So if you guys don't know, where is Paritutu Rock?
That's in New Plymouth, which is in the Taranaki region, which, for more context, that's on the North Island on the west coast. So New Plymouth is one of the largest cities on that area. And yeah, Paratutu Rock is really easy to access from the city, and it's this huge rock which I think has been left from volcanic activity.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got some pretty awesome views from the top there. And
yeah, it's one of the free and cheap things to do in New Plymouth. It's just really it's a nice thing to do. We actually have a video about it, so you can type Paratutu Rock on the channel on the search bar, and you'll find our video of us climbing it, and you'll see me with a very, very awful haircut, because the day before when we did this one, my head got shaved. Anyway, it's quite funny. And then Charlie says his favorite is Mount Tasman,
which is the second highest mountain in New Zealand. And if that's your favorite mountain to climb, then you must be a pretty insane mountaineer. So yeah,
did you actually climb, Charlie? Be real with us right now. Did you actually climb Mount Tasman?
Yeah,
because it's
I mean, this is
feat.
This is nice. This is like this is a good way to sort of slide in like, oh yeah, I've climbed Mount Tasman. What's your favorite mountain? Because mine is Mount Tasman.
I actually think the first man that climbed Mount Everest, which was Sir Edmund Hillary, used Mount Tasman as training to train himself to go climb Mount Everest.
That's in Mount Cook.
Yeah, that's in Mount Cook. So that's to tell you like what kind of level we're talking about right here. So,
Charlie says no.
Oh, okay, Charlie. No, okay.
We were about to be impressed. Like, I mean, yeah.
I was about to give you some respect. But yeah, so Mount Tasman is where?
That's in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park, which is the place in New Zealand on the South Island which has the highest mountains, the longest glaciers. It's basically where you find the most dramatic mountain scenery, and among all that scenery is Mount Tasman, which is the second highest mountain. And
all right, so Patrick says, hey, how is New Zealand for vegans?
New Zealand for vegans is okay. It's better for vegetarians, but with vegans, I'm sure you guys know that there's usually a little bit of work. You need to you do need to ask some questions. You sort of know what you can and can't eat. So, I mean, vegans is always a little bit of a challenge. Only in the major cities can you find like actual vegan cafes and vegan restaurants. So we're talking like Auckland, Christchurch, maybe Wellington as well. They're going to be the main.
Queenstown has some as well. It's really hyper.
Yeah. So in the main cities and towns, like the probably the towns that you've heard of, they're more likely to have vegan cafes and vegan restaurants and stuff like that. But when you get more off the beaten track, if you go to some of the smaller towns, it's usually your like standard cafes. A lot of them will have little icons on their menus to show you what is vegetarian and what is vegan. But yeah, just be prepared to do a little bit of asking and a little bit of like, ask what ingredients are used if you're unsure. In supermarkets, though, you will find everything that you need to make your own vegan
for yourself,
meals.
You're sweet.
Yeah. So, we do also have an article on backpackerguide.nz. If you search in the search bar on that website, vegan, we do have an article about vegetarian and vegan eating in New Zealand. So there's some more tips on there if you're interested.
So that's www.backpackerguide.nz, and then in the search bar, you just type the word vegan, and you'll be able to find that article straight away. Charlie lives in New Plymouth, and Minizaki is the same as well. Oh, look at that. You guys should go climb.
Go climb Paratutu Rock.
Yeah, exactly. Go climb Paratutu Rock together and see who goes on top first. All right, Patrick says, where is it best to exchange money in New Zealand, and where should you not exchange money in New Zealand? It's like everywhere, don't exchange money at the airport. They're going to take advantage of you, and it's going to be really expensive. You're probably going to be landing in Auckland. So if you go in Queen Street, next to, I'll find the address. I can tell you which one is the best in the country.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I can
know this info?
Oh, yeah, I do know which one is the cheapest, that's for sure. Let me just find you the address. Actually, I know the address of the shop nearby, but I'll tell you.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, just give me a second. So it is on the same side and kind of close to 105 on Queen Street. They have a gift shop with a small booth. It looks like there's a back alley on the side, and there's a small booth in there where a guy does money exchange, and I always get the best rate over there. So that's the one I would recommend. But yeah, so don't exchange the money at banks as well. If you exchange money at the banks, they usually charge you a fee, and it's a real pain. Where we live right now in New Zealand, we don't have money exchange facilities, so we usually have to either pay a fee to a bank, and it can be quite high. Some of them take us $25 last time just as a fee. On top of it, the exchange rate wasn't good. It was very annoying. And sometimes we do have to do it at the airport because we just fly from an airport to another airport, and it's really like we can very, very much feel that we're missing out on some money. So at the moment, on our personal, I know you don't care, but on a personal level right now, we actually have to use those worst options, but we actually like used to get all those cheap things, and we can very much feel a difference right now, especially when you look on the internet. You look at the exchange rate and then what you get offered, and you're like, oh, that is really not much what I was thinking.
So I definitely think that you should plan to exchange your money when you're in one of the bigger cities like Auckland, or if you're arriving in Christchurch. But remember that once you leave those cities, the services to find like currency exchange bureaus and stuff like that, it's going to be really hard to find. So it's best to sort that out like quickly when you arrive in New Zealand. When you're near some cities.
Get it over and done with. And also like one of the easy thing to do is, if you're traveling for a short amount of time, right, is to use your credit card in an ATM. If you go to an ATM, so that's those big electronic machine, you put your card in, you put your PIN code, and what's going to come out, even if your bank account is in sterling pounds or euros or US dollars, it will come out in New Zealand dollars. So the rates are not that great, but it also allows you not to have to carry too much cash. So it's kind of you kind of have the convenience right here. So you can just do that, and you say, you know what, I'll take the hit, and I'll do that twice during my trip, and I will sort it and take $1,000 every time, and you're good. So that can be kind of an easy one to do. Almost every single ATM in New Zealand will accept all the Visas and MasterCard. Quite a decent chunk of them will accept Amex, American Express, and Diners Club. But if you have Visa or MasterCard, which almost everybody has, you should be sweet with that. So that's another kind of easy one to go for. All right. This I say, why you guys not coming to India? India have great places to visit. I think you guys like the Himalayas and Kerala and many more states. Just because we haven't had a chance to go to India just yet. I mean, we pretty much specialize in New Zealand right now, but we never said we don't want to come to India. So we the reason why we're not coming to India is just because we didn't have a chance to go.
The world's too big, and there's too many places to visit. So we would love to go to India for sure. And imagine going to the Himalayas. That'd be awesome.
Charlie says he climbed Paritutu last year. Next month he's going to Mount Maunganui and Taupo.
Nice.
Mount Maunganui is probably way easier to climb than Paritutu. Honestly, it is a stroll. Mount Maunganui it should be called a mount. It is a tamed hill.
But the cool thing about Mount Maunganui is that there's two different routes you can take. You can take the longer but more sort of casual route, or you can take the hardcore quicker route, which is much more straight up the mountain, and that one's a little bit more like Paratutu Rock, so you'll probably like that one.
And Patrick says, catch you later, have a great day. Thank you Patrick for popping in. All right, so we have a little bit of an announcement to tell you guys. Just so you are aware.
Announcement.
So we are not going to be here next week. Oh my God. So we obviously have to be on the go quite often to be able to update you guys about what is happening in New Zealand, explore all the areas and everything like that. And so we are going to be on the go for about a month. We're going to have a couple of Sundays where we're not going to have access to internet because we know where we're going to be going, and we know it's going to be absolutely atrocious connection. So we're not even going to try to do the videos. So we just want you guys to know that. So we think that next week you're not going to see us live, but the week after we'll be back live. And then we think the week after that we're probably not going to be live, and the week after you're going to see us live again. So it's just going to be basically in the next month to come in August, we're probably only going to be here twice. But don't fear, we have actually prepared some extra videos for you guys, some more tips, some lengthier fun videos to watch and everything. So we haven't left you with nothing, but just don't be too afraid if we're not here on next Sunday or the Sunday afterwards. And you can still leave us your questions. We're still going to go through them. It just may take just a little bit longer, and it's all for the best. It's just because we have some more exploring to do. We need to come back to you guys with some new guides, with some new information. You know, if we were not traveling, it would be quite irrelevant for us to kind of keep on giving you tips on traveling in New Zealand. So we have to be on the go quite regularly, and usually we try to always have connection on the Sundays, but you know,
it looks like we're not going to be able to do that. Yeah,
it looks like we'd be off the grid.
Yeah.
So that's just basically just to let you know. It's exciting though. You know, it just means that we get to cover some more places. So don't panic too much, guys. Don't panic. We'll still cover everything. And yeah, if you have some short questions, we'll also just reply on messages.
Yeah, we can always reply to your comments on any of our YouTube videos as well. But if you do have any lengthier questions, then we definitely will be able to add them to our pool of questions.
To a long list of questions.
Yeah, so as soon as we do get connection on the next Sunday that we do get connection while we're traveling around in New Zealand, we will definitely be going through more of your questions. So yeah, keep in touch. And also there is a little bell icon below our videos, which that's the best way to basically get notifications for when we do go live, because if you just click subscribe, it doesn't do what it used to.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
ABD Al-Haraman says, how much does it cost to buy a small house in a green nature area and close to the city? Man, you are specific. Most places in New Zealand will have a bit of greeneries around, because it's not a super very industrial kind of places. There's no like skyscraper everywhere and everything like that. So most places will have some nice greeneries everywhere. And cities, where we mentioned New Zealand doesn't have that much cities per se. So if you want to be close to a city, that's going to be Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, and that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of other cities, but they are more towns.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy yourself some houses in those areas, it's actually quite expensive nowadays. You probably need to have between 500,000 to 1 million New Zealand dollars to get yourself a house and mortgage and all those kind of things. So I think that's what it would be. Obviously, we're not property experts. And property prices change all the time. It depends on how big of a house you want. It depends on the location. It depends on how new of a house. It depends on so many things. I mean, this is such a generic question right here. So I'll say between half a million to 1 million. I said this is what you need, but you could get yourself something for about $250,000, and you can get yourself for about 10 million. You can definitely find anything in the range. So here you go. Anything you want to add on that? Or?
Not really, no.
No. Okay, let's move on. Charlie says, how much are houses in Auckland? Well, as I say, probably 1 million, probably more.
Auckland's known for being one of the most expensive.
Yeah, actually, we have a friend. We have a friend that's sold his house in Auckland, and he sold it for over 1 million, but he's closer to the city center. So yeah, the property prices are going crazy. But I think it's all wrong. I mean, nowadays properties is just insane, and we prefer traveling. We don't like big expensive houses. I think we prefer traveling. I mean, it's all about experiences rather than things. I mean, in our book, we're those kind of people. We know we're
one of those annoying people.
Yeah, we're one of the hashtag moments are precious, not things. Just nonsense.
Oh,
but
Lord.
that's more kind of our philosophy, to be quite honest. So yeah, we don't really know much about housing and everything, but I think there is some regulation as well. There is some regulation on who can buy housing in New Zealand as well. So I think you have to have the right visa as well to be able to do that. So yeah. Desai says, why New Zealand have weekly rent houses and other countries have monthly? I don't really know. Listen, I've traveled quite a lot. I worked and traveled in about 16 different countries around the world, right? In Canada, it was every 2 weeks. I was living in Vancouver. Everything was every 2 weeks. No, wait. That was even worse. I think my rent was every month, but my pay was every 2 weeks. I mean, it was complete nonsense. Yeah. Then in some places it's weekly. And actually in Australia, I had to pay every 2 weeks for my rent, hey, you have to pay weekly. It's just really weird. And sometimes it's really weird because you're gonna have, like when you calculate your cost of rent and everything, you kind of like, okay, I'm gonna have my rent, my power, my internet, right? So you're gonna have your power and your internet are both gonna be monthly. You're gonna have your rent, which is gonna be weekly, and you're gonna have your wage, which could be, and it's New Zealand, right? Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's every 2 weeks, sometimes every month. It is, you just
Nothing makes sense.
Yeah. So you're asking why? We don't know.
Yeah.
But we've noticed it, and we think it's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you may have to do some math around that. But the good thing about that is that when renting a place, let's say in Canada, that you have to pay every month, you usually have to give a bond, right? A bond is the amount of money that you give in case you trash the place or anything like that, and your landlord can keep it. But if you give the place back in a nice, in a good state, then they give it to you back. So if you do that in Canada, you sometimes have to give 1 or 2 months worth of bond, which is a lot of money. But in New Zealand, usually you give 2 weeks, which is half a month of bond. So you're going to give, between half to a quarter of what usually you have to give in Canada. So it's actually play to your advantage in that very scenario. But yeah, that's pretty much it. As per why, would you have an idea of why they do that? I find it odd. But
yeah, maybe it's just the inability to forward plan. Maybe it's just like, I can only deal with 2 weeks at a time, guys. I don't know if I can make the whole month.
Yeah, maybe it's the fear of commitment.
Yeah, maybe that's it. It's like, I only want to pay my rent 2 weeks at a time. I don't know if I'm going to have the money in the next 2 weeks. So yeah.
So maybe it's that it's great if you are an unreliable person. You're sweet, but yeah, that's. Yeah, I don't really know why. I never thought about why it is, but it is true. You would find a lot of different kind of habits in New Zealand for those type of payments, and yeah, it's
a lot of reasons to say why.
Yeah, a lot of reasons to say why. But it's the same thing. Like, let's say you buy, sometimes you can buy, I don't know, some people can buy like a TV. If you're on a really expensive TV that you can afford, you can pay. You can buy it with a part paying. You pay a little bit here and there, and some of them literally is like pay $3 a week, and some of them are like pay $100 a month, and it just depends on the shop. It depends on. There's just so many. Like it's not clear cut.
Yeah, there's not a general rule. Every sort of company has their own rules.
For your bank fees, you pay every quarter, which is every 3 months.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's just weird. For your taxes as well, actually, it's every quarter. Go figure. It's just you've got to keep track of stuff. Good thing is that we all have smartphones now, and you can put everything in the
put it in the calendar.
Yeah, put everything in your calendar.
Reminds yourself when you need to pay your rent and when you need to pay this and that and this and that. Your phone
and that as well.
And your phone also can have a weekly plan.
Plan. That is true. That is true. Actually, on the phone, even like we're with Skinny, right? And you can go on the app and you can choose like when, what kind of combo you want. Even if you're on prepay, you can buy combos, right? And there is weekly and monthly combos. And you also have combos that are like for like a few hours or something. Yeah. Mega data for like 2 hours or something.
Data binge for 2 hours.
It's just odd. But that exists as well.
Yeah.
So
in conclusion, why we don't know, but it's all over the place.
Yeah. So here you go. We don't know. All right. So
Charlie says, "I will miss you guys."
Oh, we miss you too.
Yeah.
But you're literally gonna not see us for a week. Then we'll be back next week. Then you're not seeing us for a week. So we're not gonna be too far. And then after that, we'll be back in a normal schedule. He also asked, "Are you into sports?"
Some sports. Can you class hiking as a sport? We're into hiking, into snowboarding.
Yeah.
But in terms of
we like whitewater rafting.
But in terms of maybe like, team sports, the sort of sports you play in school, not really. We're not into rugby, we're not into cricket. So Sorry about that.
Yeah, when the All Blacks are playing, obviously we go with our mates and we go to the pub and we grab a beer and we yell at the TV like everyone. But does it classify you as being into sports when you are drinking alcohol and stuffing yourself with greasy food while some other people are sweating their ass off? Is it? I'm pretty sure it's not.
I don't think that's
I don't think it is sport.
Spectating is not a sport.
I personally don't think it's sport, but some people do think it is. Because it is as being into sports, but yeah. Anyhow,
on that note,
guys, we are off to explore the amazingness that New Zealand has to offer. We are off to check out what is new in the country to report to you guys. That means that you're not going to see us next week, but we'll be back the following Sunday at what time?
Well, that is 8 a.m. New Zealand time.
8 a.m. New Zealand time.
But
which
elsewhere in the world, that is on a Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. EST or 12 p.m. PST if you're in the US. That's on a Saturday evening, UK 9 p.m. France.
22 heures.
And in India, that is 1:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning. But we will be putting a handy little link in the description below to timeanddate.com, which you can actually type in, basically you type in which country you're in and it will tell you what time it will be at 8 a.m. New Zealand time.
So it's going to be quite handy for you guys.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you guys have any questions of your own, make sure to put them in the comments of any of our videos and we'll make sure to pick them up and write them down so we can cover them for you guys during our next live session. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.
See you later.